Hello and welcome to It's Tutoring Time. Help your students help themselves. I'm Linda Heimberger with the South Carolina State Library Electronic Resources Department, and I'm here to share with you the free Tutor.com through our Discus account for K through 12 students in South Carolina. I'm sure many of you have run into students who are having difficulty with a particular concept, or there's just something that's a barrier to their learning. It may be their study skills that needs a little assistance. They may have failed terribly on a math test. So what we're going to look at today is how the K through 12 students throughout the state can access this Tutor.com real live tutor through our Discus account. So Tutor.com is available to students at no charge from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Saturday. There are also Spanish-speaking tutors that are available in the core subjects of math, science, there as well, that are available from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. All students in South Carolina can connect to a tutor in real time and access asynchronous math and English videos. Those students who are 14 and up can also create an account to utilize extra features there. So they can submit a paper for review, drop off a math question, practice for the SAT, ACT exams, and even indicate a favorite tutor that they may have gotten a rapport with that they really feel like they explain their math very well. They can connect up to those tutors there. So rule number one when you go out to AccessTutorcom is don't do what your nature wants you to do, because the name of Tutor.com being the actual product, many people think they go to www.tutor.com to access. You do not want to do this because it takes you out to the Tutor.com company website, and there is no way for the Discus user to access. So you want to make sure if you ever get a question from a student or a parent that they could not access, always make sure that they have connected through Discus from your school library or media center website to connect to the Discus Tutor.com subscription, and they'll know right away if they have this Discus logo that you see at the top of the right picture. They'll know they're in the right place. So that's the first little tip that I can give you there. Personal accounts here. So personal accounts are not required by students to connect with a tutor now. Notice when they click on that Tutor.com link, they're going to be able to go directly in to connect with, let me correct myself. They're not actually going to, again, do not go to www.tutor.com, but they would access through the Discus website from the A to Z list tab, which I'll show you in a moment. Just to clarify, but connect with a tutor now is going to be bolded. Everything else is grayed out there. And once a student clicks on and opens into the database, they're going to get probably a pop-up that says, here's an unlock extra features. You want to make sure that that they know that connecting to a live tutor does not require a personal account for the student, regardless of the grade level or the age. So just instruct them to close out of that pop-up to proceed to connect with that tutor. And we'll go live in a moment to see all of that. So you can see that they can choose below. They can start out by selecting a subject and then a subcategory within the subject, and then connect to a tutor and fill out the form for that. And that's what they would do. This is a sample of the tutoring classroom. So we have here a whiteboard. The tutor can use several different whiteboards at a time if they want to have the word problem on one and they want to show the equations worked out on the other. The graphing calculator is available. Also a text editor there for working with Word documents and other pieces there. The students and tutors can share files back and forth so that they can easily explain what they're doing, and maybe if they're needing a specific clarification on something. And you'll see that they can chat there in the right. So this is an excellent resource, especially for virtual students, but also for those face-to-face students after school is out. If they're struggling and their parent is not able to assist with a math problem or social studies, science, we have all across the core subjects there. There is an optional personal account for students 14 and up, and that's what I had mentioned that they would be able to unlock. This is an option. They can create that account if they want to unlock the additional features that I mentioned before with the math problem drop-off, paper review, etc. Students age 13 and under do not create a personal account. However, they still can get help from the real-time tutor with a math problem or paper writing issue without dropping it off for review. So they can still upload their paper, upload their math problem, and work there. They can also access the math and English videos without an account. Okay, so when they do go out to create a personal account to unlock extra features, again, this is for ages 14 and up, they would need to fill out this information and create a new account. The birth date is what's going to trigger whether or not the student is of age to be able to create that account. Even if they create an account, they're still not going to unlock the extra features for the 14-year-olds and up. So once they log into the account, as you can see, I've logged into mine here. Notice those grayed out areas are now dark and bold. So we will have access to submit a paper for review, drop off a math question, take a practice quiz, and also look at the SAT and ACT prep. So if your student has chosen the box of submit a paper for review, all they'll need to do is fill out this question of exactly what they need reviewed. You know, are you at the beginning of your paper? Are you in the middle? Are you concerned about the development, the citations, etc.? That student, and you can see why now this is a little more involved, so those 13 and under probably wouldn't be able to navigate this as well. They would be able to tell the tutor, this is what I'd like for you to review. The paper does take 12 hours to be reviewed. This is not a paper mill. This is actually explanations and a thorough reading of the paper, as you'll see in a moment. After the student uploads the paper there and submits it, then the tutor goes in and they will work, and within 12 hours, they're going to find this essay review feedback in their account. So the student would be able to then review it and see what the tutor has told them. Again, it's not a paper mill. They're not going to submit the paper and get it all corrected and turned back in a beautiful format. This is for the tutor to actually coach them on what was good about the paper, what needed some extra help. So you see they cover very in-depth details of the thesis statement, developing the ideas, whether that's developed well, accomplished, or exemplary. They give them strong feedback on every step of the way, developing their ideas here, talking about the quotes that they've used, the essay structure they cover, and then they also give all of the feedback that they have for that student to say, look at, take your time to look at these. So this is not, again, this is not something that's going to be really quick to be done. The student's still going to need to be doing that review, but these are going to be pieces they can then apply to other papers they write as well. So also, is their research citation format correct? How is their grammar and mechanics? So you can see why it takes 12 hours to get this back, because the tutor is really doing some thoughtful explanations here. And then they do the overall suggested revisions at the end. So that's the paper drop-off for those 14 and up. The Choose Quizzes section at the top, or take a practice quiz. These are going to be 14 different topics that the students can choose from here just to practice their skills in biology, algebra, English, etc. And they are the ones that are 14 and up, so your high school students would be the ones using these. Once they take a quiz, they are going to be able to go in and select, chemistry. I want to practice on ionic bonds and formulas. They would work through the quiz, and the percent complete shows their progress. So you'll see 81% complete here. And then once they finish that quiz, they're going to get their score back with each of the questions that were missed. So at that time, if the student is really struggling with particular concepts or questions, they can just click directly to discuss with a tutor and connect now during those hours of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Or they can click and review their own answers to see what they might have missed. So that's the quiz taking piece to help to bone up on skills. There is also in other tools the prep for the SAT and the ACT that you see here. So the students would be able to do a complete Princeton course here with full-length practice tests, detailed score reports, engaging video lessons, and be able to practice drills. So if they are wanting to just learn about how to take the test-taking strategies, they can use these on-demand videos that are asynchronous, or they can actually connect to a tutor to help them with the content side of it. The tutor would help them work through any missed questions that they've come across during the prep for the SAT, ACT. So everybody wants to know about the math drop-off a question. This is, again, math is the #1 tutoring subject in South Carolina at this point with our students. They can actually submit a math question. It takes a 24-hour period to get their feedback. It takes up to 24 hours, so students need to be aware of that. But if it's already past 10 o'clock and they've worked to try to get maybe a solution, the tutors aren't really there, they can go ahead and submit that question. Then they can actually submit it any time of the day, but just keeping in mind that it might be up to 24 hours before they receive their feedback on that. So they would just fill this out similarly to like they filled out their paper review. They would say what grade level they're in, what help they need, type in their question. Look, notice too on the bottom left, they can attach a file here. So they can attach a failed test. If they failed, their algebra test or their geometry test, they can actually attach that file and show the tutor exactly what they missed to be able to get a good explanation for it. And then there's also the option to draw their problem on an open whiteboard there. Once that student submits within that 24-hour period, they will also get a feedback from that tutor. So the student would log into account to view the explanation of that math problem. Again, everything that Tutor.com works to do is to make sure they are teaching the student how to ask the right questions about a problem, how to set up problems, how to think through the solving of a problem rather than here's your answer. So that's a very good benefit. Notice here they actually break out each section of the problem and they're showing explanations on the whiteboard that the students can pop out and view, and they can go down to the bottom after they look at all of the explanation. They can also rate that tutor's feedback, so that Tutor.com can continue to have a high quality collection of tutors there that are available. So those are the main pieces that you'll find that are additional for those students 14 and up. The student should be able to better understand all of their steps in working their math problem there. I do want to tell you this is very separate from the Discus login prompt that you're going to, separate from the account that I showed you about the personal account that's tied to that Tutor.com page. This is if your students ever get this specific screen. It would most likely happen if they are outside of the state of South Carolina. Perhaps if they're a South Carolina resident and student, but they're visiting grandma on Thanksgiving in North Carolina, or they're gone over the holiday break. If they ever get this prompt, they're going to need to use the Discus login username and password, and that's something that the school media specialist or librarian should be able to provide you at your local school. So this is the contact information here for me if you have additional questions. So we're going to go live now and actually see what we've looked at close up. So when you access through Discus, scdiscus.org, linked from your library's website at your school, you can just click on the A to Z list and click on the letter T and jump right into tutor.com right down here. So you can see that I am logged in here. If I weren't logged into my account, I might get that personal account, that pop-up that I told you all just to tell them to close out of in the slides. But you can see here, these are all the options that we were looking at on the slides. I always encourage you to get the student to go through the little house to the actual home page here, because they can browse by subject. And I wanted to highlight some of those subjects for you today. Obviously, the core subject of science, math, broken out with the separate categories within those subjects. The computer literacy, English there. I also wanted to highlight there is ESL and ELL tutors available that are able to tutor those students. Your Spanish students, for instance, could also get tutoring. French, German students. Student success and study skills has just been added for those students that are looking to maybe take better notes. They can work directly with the tutor. You know, they can even upload some notes and say, how could I have taken these better? Studying effectively, those study skills have just been added. Social studies there on the left. Many people don't realize some people are hung up by different concepts within social studies, maybe understanding communism or a particular time period in history that they might have not scored well on their test. So there are the SAT and ACT preps. Notice also the parent coaching for student success. So we also have parenting that the students can, that the parents can connect up with to learn more about studying techniques and scheduling and organization, and just simply motivating those students, that their children that they have at home. So that's also a great piece. So as you're looking at these, just think about your different subjects you teach. Think about different students that you already know may be struggling in a particular area. This is something you can take right back to the classroom with you soon as you watch this video. I also wanted to mention at the very bottom, we do have those Spanish language, Spanish speaking tutors that will teach the tutoring in mathematics, sciences, in those core subjects that would be in that student's native language, if that's a more comfortable way for them to learn there. So if we go up to my account, which I am logged into, I'm going to show you what that student 14 and up would see here. They would be able to access any of the sessions that they've had there. They would be able to access their favorite tutors. So after they finish working with a tutor, if that tutor really explained things very clearly and they want to remember which one so they can connect to them again, that's another benefit of having that personal account for your 14-year-olds and up. The My Locker, they can save assignments that they've sent to the tutor. They can save any extra pieces of explanation there that they wish. So that's what that account piece is going to allow them to do there. And then they would just log into their account here in order to receive any of those feedbacks on the paper that they submitted or the math question they reviewed. To be able to show you here is back at our website. We're going to go back out to the Discus site quickly here. If you want more information about Tutor.com in more detail, you can go to our training tab at scdiscus.org and click on the online archive, and you'll just scroll down through the database trainings to the Tutor.com section, and you'll be able to watch any of those videos at your leisure. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any additional questions, you're welcome to email the Discus Office Help Desk or myself, Linda Heimberger. Certainly you can ask your media specialist or librarian at your local school library as well. Thank you.